Did you know there is such thing as an immortal jellyfish? During adulthood, it can revert back to adolescence over and over again, provided it can find enough food, doesn't get sick, and isn't eaten by predators. In theory, they can live forever. Many people know tardigrades can live in extreme, volcanically driven heat at the ocean floor vents, and even on the outside of the International Space Station. But what you may not know about Earth's best extremophile is that it likely underwent cryptobiosis to survive that extreme environment. They literally die and come back to life better prepared to handle the environment that killed them. Did you know some crocodiles do not exhibit senescence, aging of their cells? They remain in their prime form and can continue to grow and grow. In reality, they succumb to weather, starvation, sickness, or just getting stuck somewhere due to their size, but in theory, there is no limit to how big they could get or how old they could be. Humans and most other creatures have a major problem there. Most cells have a Hayflick limit, a restriction on how many times the cells can divide, and when DNA is replicated, any number of things can cause mistakes or markers to amplify our aging and road to eventual body failure. But what if we could fight back against aging, turn on our own stem cells, figure out a piece of the human user's manual that we never got when we were born?
Youth is not measured in age. Youth is measured in functionality.
How can humans, to a certain degree, turn off or turn down senescence, sort of beat back aging?
But when your genetics are damaged by toxins, your body repairs the damage and leaves a mark where the repair was made. Unfortunately, that mark prevents proteins from being made at that point again, and as these marks build up, you have less and less proteins available to stay healthy. So when you fast, this nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is the name of NAD, extends the lifespan of that cell because it's taking all these tags off so those proteins can still be accessed. And that's really what this is all about. There's a big misconception about fasting today. And the interest in dry fasting is the fact that you don't drink water. Now, water fasting is not really fasting. Water fasting is actually water dieting. You're not eating, but you're drinking. So when you're water fasting, or water dieting, which is what I like to call it now, you're not really doing anything significant for repair, but you are turning on processes that start dissolving your muscle tissue to provide energy. So when you dry fast, you turn on a process called autophagy, which is a system of cellular repair where you break down old cells and use the component parts to create new tissue. And the perfect example of this is the tadpole. A tadpole is born with a huge tail and a huge head, no arms, no legs. Then little buds start forming for arms and legs, and the tadpole stops eating. The tadpole starts fasting. And as these arms and leg buds start growing longer and longer, the tail starts dissolving and disappearing. The tail on the tadpole is gone, and it's got all these parts. But what's happening is exactly what I'm talking about with autophagy. The tail is providing the nutrients in this destruction of tissue to provide the building blocks to build different tissue. So what the tail ended up making was new brain tissue, new skeletal muscles, new skeleton, all that sort of stuff for the frog, and the tadpole is transformed into a frog. And much like us, we have these processes, autophagy, that allows our cells during fasting to go into a cleaning mode that dissolves old useless stuff and provides building blocks to build new tissue to keep you healthy.
August Dunning, Caltech, formerly at NASA JPL, longtime friend of this community, has a new book showing why fasting has always been part of the human existence and the benefits of youth that can be gained from learning part of your own human user's manual.
The biggest problem we face as human beings is a condition called methylation. And although it seems very complicated, it's pretty simple. That when your genetics are damaged by toxins, your body repairs the damage and leaves a mark where the repair was made. Unfortunately, that mark prevents proteins from being made at that point again, and as these marks build up, you have less and less proteins available to stay healthy. So really, it's demethylation is the way to prevent senescence, because it's methylation, these markers that build up that prevent the cell from functioning properly, that causes aging, because and senescent cells. Now, senescence is a condition where the cells are progressively unable to maintain their protein output because of methylation, and they start losing their function to the point where they stop dividing. In fact, they have so much damage and so many insults that it just cannot divide. It goes beyond the Hayflick number, where you just 40 to 60 divisions and the cell can't divide again. This accelerates that process, where the cell has so much damage on the DNA that the DNA can't be replaced or replicated. And so the cell gets into a condition where it starts pumping out all these toxins, because it starts filling up with all these used and aging proteins and these protein toxins. And that leaks out and causes more senescence. Now, the way to stop that is to stop or control methylation. And the way the body does that is by upregulating a trigger for what are called sirtuins, these proteins that remove methylation. And as you remove these methylation markers and return functionality, you end up with a condition which I like to call functional immortality. Because if you're doing it enough and doing it correctly and avoiding the problems that cause these methyl markers to occur, then you're going to extend your lifespan. So radical life extension is the objective of the Phoenix Protocol.